Right, hi guys. I haven't got much time this morning. I want to talk today about how to make a comic, but before I do that, I've got to head out and do some work. So, I'll see you after this quick break. Another day, another very dark and dreary day. I have a feeling it's going to rain, but we're going to go out and leaflet anyway because we've got to get the word out there, haven't we? All the news for the community, got to do it. Right, I'm just waiting on my lift because I'm running a bit late because unfortunately I slept in. Slept straight through my alarm, both of them. Oh dear, must have need to sleep, let's put it that way. So, better get on, and let's make a day of it. It's always good to get out and about, delivering our leaflets, and also having a look at the area, because you get to reassess as you go whether the ideas that you've been working on are having an effect, whether you need to rejig them a bit, or whether it's working out, and it's doing well, so very happy. There are a few things I want to push forward with, but I'm not ignoring you when I'm looking around. I'm just making sure traffic doesn't come. It's a country road, you've got to be careful. But yeah, most of what we're planning and what we're doing is working out, so I'm very happy with that. It's always just nice to get out and about, of course, see people, talk to people, get the news out with leaflets. It's good. It's good work. Right, let's get on. Oh my goodness. Right, I am now back from work. Let's get down to what I was wanting to talk to you about. There's something on the floor I've just knocked over. Starting as we mean to go on. Right, guys, I'm out of breath. I want to talk today about how to make a comic. And the way I'm going to do that is to take an example from All Over the House. Now, All Over the House is a standalone, every episode should be standalone, joke per day comic. Which means I don't have to worry about readers coming to any particular episode or any particular comic as their first time. I don't have to set anything up really as the background, and they don't need to know anything about the comic. They just need to have a look and see that's a joke and that's funny. That's my style. Your style may be different. For example, you could have a drama comic or something like that. That's perfectly fine. The rules that I'm going to talk to you about today are pretty much you can make what you want of them for any comic, so let's get straight to it. It all starts with a script. Now, a script for a comic can be long and detailed in the form of an actual script that you send off to an artist who draws it. I don't tend to do that because I'm the co-writer with my partner Jennifer, and I'm also the artist, so I've already got in my head the idea what I want. All I need is the dialogue, and then I can work the rest out myself. So that's how we work. We start by having a conversation about how to make the joke. Right. I want to do this piece about cabinet reshuffles.
Right.
And how it's problematic at the moment, especially with like sex scandals and things like that.
Uh-huh.
Do I have an idea? That's the problem. I want to do and make a joke about selecting people. I don't want to do the obvious thing of highlighting too much the current problems, because I think everyone's doing that.
No, you need it very generic, but in a way that people can find humour in. What about a game of Guess Who? Because the idea is like, it's like, what am I going to do? I need to reshuffle the cabinet, and then Mr. Drope can come out and go, bring forth Old Faithful, and it'd be like, right, and it's like, okay, Prime Minister, ask me a question. We've got all of the potential candidates here on Old Faithful, and we'll try and see if we can work out the best choice. And she'd be like,
Now, has this potential candidate been involved in a sex scandal?
Flip. And it's like, all go down and go, oh, Prime Minister, no, let's start with the easier questions.
Are they breathing?
Flip. Good question. Yes, I think we're onto something here.
So there's a potential cabinet member who is dead. So, as you saw there, we've got the script idea, but basically we've got the dialogue. Now, I'm going to put that into Photoshop and into my 3 panels that I've already got laid out as a template, so it makes it much, much easier to make these comics quicker, because I don't have to design the layout. It's always the same with the 3 panels, unless I want 2 panels or 1 panel or 4 panels or 6 panels. I've got templates for all of those, and I can work them out. Even if I wanted a 5 panel, I could just take one of my 3 panel templates and a 2 panel template and stick them together. That's perfectly fine. I can work very quickly because I have these already set out. So that means I can just drop the dialogue into the 3 panel frames I want to use for this particular comic, and then rearrange them until it works, and then I can start sketching. Sketching is the important part, because this is where you'll spend the most time. After you've got the idea for the script, this is where you'll spend the most time on your comic, because you've got to draw the entire comic. And you just do it rough. Don't worry about getting it perfect with only one line per corner and things like that, or anything like that. Get the sketch down, get an idea of what you want to do. If you think it's too messy, then go over the top of it as another sketch and tidy it up a bit. It's perfectly fine. This is where you'll spend most of your time though, because this is where the comic takes shape. If something isn't working, move it or erase it or redraw it, whatever you need to until it works out for you. That's the main part. The sketch is where your comic becomes your comic. And you haven't seen the full thing yet, so don't worry, because the full thing doesn't come until right at the end when everything's in place. Now, once you've got your sketch and you're sure that it's right, you can decide, right, I'm going to keep these lines, I'm going to remove those lines, and this, that, and the other. And that's where you ink it. Ink in the lines you want to keep. Now, don't ink straight onto the same sketch layer that you've just used. Make a new layer. And I like to make the sketch layer a little bit more transparent, well, translucent really, and then I can see what I'm drawing over the top better. You may decide you just want to draw straight on as it is, but I tend to reduce the opacity. And it just makes it much easier and clearer to see the lines I'm going to draw. So, put your new layer on top and start inking. I like to ink with a thick, bold line on the outlines of my characters to make them pop out of the background. And then I use a less bold line. So it's a 19-point line for the outline of the characters. Then I use a 9-point line. It's much smaller, much thinner, allows you much more detail for the inside lines on the characters themselves, for all the detail like the eyes, the clothes and things like that. And that means that the bold outline makes the character pop out, but you can still get enough definition to see the character properly on the main lines. Then for the background I use a 5-point line because I want the background to seem less important in terms of visual impact on the page. So that's how I do it. Anything in the background that's important to the comic, I will draw with a foreground drawing tool, like a 9-point, sometimes even a 19. If the character's holding something, I'll outline that as well as the character, so everything pops out. Then, once you've got the inking, you'll see that your comic has pretty much taken shape. You can now see what your comic's going to look like. It's still in black and white, but don't worry about that, because the next thing is the colour layer. Now, you'll need another layer for this. I happen to use two, and I'll talk about why in a moment. You've got your colour layer. Put it behind your inking layer. And also, here's the thing. If you've got any bits of your inking that are just detail, put them on a separate layer to the rest of the inking. And I'll show you why. Because when you're trying to colour in, and you have lots of little bits of detail, they will get in the way of a bucket fill. And I know a lot of colourists are shuddering when I mention bucket fill, but I colour quickly. And I do it by bucket filling areas and then going over with detail if I need to. So, have your detail on a separate layer to the rest of your main inking, and then just make that layer invisible for the moment so it's not there while you're colouring. Colour in on your separate colour layer, which makes it much easier to deal with Photoshop and products like that, because it won't then interact with the inking layer and make it all jaggy and horrible. So, got your colour there, colour that in with your bucket fill, and then go over and just fill in any little gaps that are left with a pen tool or a pencil, or whatever you want to use, and that will make your colours pop out very quickly. Now, I use two colour layers. I use a colour layer for the foreground and a colour layer for the background. The reason for that is I have a pattern that goes behind every frame in my comics. And I want that pattern to come through. It makes it look a little bit like watercolours. That's what I'm going for. I also want to make the foreground pop out from the background. And that's easy to do if you've got two layers. Colour in the foreground in one layer, the background in another layer. And then I set the opacity on my foreground to 70% and the opacity of my background to 50%. You can adjust and find out what works for you. That way, the foreground, even in the colour layer, pops out from the background and my pattern shows through when I bring it on. Now you can put the detail back onto your comic by making it visible again, and suddenly, bam, all of the art for your comic is there. It's pretty quick this way. My method works well for me. I can get a 3-panel comic done in about an hour and a half from starting sketching to finished product. And it's one of those rules with comics. You start off slow, but you get better and better and better in terms of quality. And then once you've got a good quality comic, you work on getting faster. And then, once you've worked on getting faster, you can work on getting your quality back because you'll have lost a bit while you're getting fast. So it basically works as, first you learn to get good, then you learn to get fast, then you learn to get fast and good. That's how it works for comics. So, I've missed one bit out, haven't I? Where are the speech bubbles? So let's bring all of the lettering layers back into visibility. We took them off earlier on when we were doing the sketch. Bring them back, and now you can't really see them properly. So what I do now is make my frames and all of my inking layers invisible. So I've just got the colours and I know where everything is. Now I draw these speech bubbles. I draw them by hand. A lot of people use a speech bubble tool, but I find it doesn't give you the same handmade quality as if you just draw them all by hand. So I draw all of the outlines for the speech bubbles by hand, and then I do the same thing as I did with colouring. I make another layer and I colour all of the speech bubbles in, and then that's it. That's all you have to do. That's a comic. You have made a comic if you follow those rules, and it'll be a pretty decent one too. So, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it was informative for you, and that's all I've got time for now because I've got to get some work done before my wife gets home. We're going to have a pizza and video night. I'm going to enjoy that. So, I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching. See you later. Today's video is brought to you by my graphic novels, The Collected Life of Naughty Mouse, Volume 1, All Over the House, Volume 1, and All Over the House, Volume 2. Thank you.